Hi, if you're new to prepping or you've been prepping for many years like we have, you may be asking yourself the question, do I still need to be prepping? We're past the election, the stock market's going up, a calm has descended across our country, and hopefully that'll spill over to the rest of the world, putting an end to a lot of global conflicts. Well, that's the question we're going to address today. Hi, my name is Jeremy, and if you're new to the channel, we're called Tinfoil Hat Prepper. And if you want to know why, just take a look at this video in our description below. We're all about keeping your family safe and prepared in uncertain times. So let's get into it. One area of concern is the ongoing conflict between Iran and Israel. Any minute, Iran is likely to strike Israel in retaliation for Israel's strike. And Israel is even talking about doing a second preemptive strike on Iran. All of this means that the Middle East is a powder keg. And with the United States sending bombers, nuclear-capable bombers, to Qatar this past week while we were all focused on the election, it is an area of the world that needs to be in our peripheral as a potential issue that could affect our lives here in America. Well, how could that affect our lives in America, you say? Well, easy, because Iran has signed treaties with Turkey, Russia, and other countries to come to its defense, which means that a conflict in the Middle East could quickly bring in larger world powers and ultimately drag in the United States. Since we've obviously sent bombers there, we have a vested interest in Israel's stability as a country and a democracy in the Middle East. So what that means is we need to keep our eyes on the Middle East because of its potential influence on the rest of the world. The second thing we need to keep our eyes on is just the world in general. The threat of a cyber attack has never been higher. If you remember back this summer when CrowdStrike went down, people were stuck at hotels, flights were canceled. It really affected a lot of people's ability to use debit and credit cards to pay for the services that they were using. People couldn't check out of hotels. The hotel was demanding payment, or that they were holding them captive until their credit cards would go through. Now, if you had cash on hand, you could have quickly escaped that. So I always like to say that no matter what we're facing, keeping a little bit of cash on hand, as much as you can, not only in hundreds, but 20s, 10s, and 5s, will help you out in situations where the cyber structure goes down. Another area that could potentially be affected is our power grid. And so with cyber attacks on the rise, we need to be conscious and aware that the power that's coming into your home could fail and would likely do so. There have been countless testimonies to Congress from experts that are saying not if, but when the United States power grid is attacked, what does that mean for your family? Well, the first thing it means is obviously you have no lights, no power. How long does that last? Well, in some instances, if transformers and other large equipment needs to be replaced from an attack, those components come from China, on a slow boat from China, because China's economy right now is slowing, which means their manufacturing is slowing. Now, that's assuming that we're not in a greater conflict with China, and they don't want to replace the infrastructure that we have in the United States. So how do you protect yourself? Well, it doesn't mean you need to run out and get a $10,000 generator back up to your home. It could be as simple as having some portable solar generators that could power refrigerators, freezers, lights, just to help you maintain that sense of normalcy in the event of a larger attack. Now, I've spent a lot of time thinking about what prepping means to my family. And I want to make sure that in different scenarios, whether it's grid down, whether it's EMP, whether it's a pandemic like we saw in COVID, but with real infectious diseases that actually kill with a higher mortality rate, that in all of these different scenarios, I've tried to think through what that means to my family and how can I protect them and keep them safe. Now, nobody can think of every scenario, and even when you think you've got it perfected, there's still areas where you can tweak and adjust. And that's why we're on YouTube. We're here sharing our expertise and our knowledge in a community of other preppers and like-minded people that just want to keep their family safe in the event of a disaster or even an emergency. Now, on this channel, we also like to have fun and keep everything a little bit lighter, because if you go too far down the rabbit hole, you can find yourself really getting mentally exhausted. depressed, and suffering from what I like to call prepper anxiety. We want to balance the seriousness of being prepared with a couple of dad jokes, because I'm a father with 2 young children, and I know what it means to have a sense of humor in these times. These are trying times for a lot of families. Prices haven't come down just because Trump got elected. Obviously, he's promised to help everyday Americans lower food, energy, gas bills, but that's going to take some time. So just being mindful that we still have budget constraints and that we need to prepare for our family the best we can means that we need to prioritize what we anticipate happening. So maybe you don't think an EMP is likely. Maybe you don't think the power grid going down is likely. Maybe you think it's just shortages like we saw during COVID, where it was hard to find food in the grocery store. So whatever you think might happen should trigger an action to solve that issue. So if you think there's going to be food shortages, then not going and blowing thousands of dollars, but maybe just setting aside a little bit extra every week. When you place your Walmart order, you go to the grocery store, just get a few extra items and put them to the side in the case of an emergency. Now, if you look at the wall behind me, this didn't happen overnight. In fact, this took many years of thoughtful preparation. We created spreadsheets where we have how many pounds of meats, how many pounds of sides, desserts, etc. My wife loves chocolate. You probably love chocolate. Women love chocolate. Happy wife, happy life. Well, listen, happy kids, happy life, because screaming unhappy kids in an emergency is not a fun place to be. And so I'm not telling you to rush out and get a second mortgage on your home to be prepared. I'm saying actually the opposite. I think that as we enter these kind of calmer times, it's a chance for us to catch up. Areas that we had not anticipated, maybe didn't expect. We saw a video and made us think, oh, maybe there could be a cyber attack that takes out the power grid. Well, what would I do and provide for my family in that scenario? Now's the time to take a stock of what we have and what we expect to happen and put in a plan to make sure that our families are provided for. Now, again, I mentioned that we like to end with a couple of dad jokes. Would you like to hear a joke on construction? Well, you can't. I'm still working on it. Another great one is, where does the general keep his armies? In his sleeveys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and you got to laugh at the same time. We want to make sure that during this calm period of our nation's history that we are still being mindful that in the quiet, in the calm is the best time to prepare and put in plans of action for your family. So this is the Tinfoil Hat Prepper. Stay safe, stay ready, stay prepared. God bless.